Good morning. I wasn't sure the old streaming software was going to let me in there, and it was definitely having a good long think about it. But good morning, folks. So fingers crossed. I'm live this morning in my Facebook group, the Business Growth Community, on my LinkedIn profile, and also on YouTube. So I'm multi-channeling and also multi-technologying. So the first thing I'm going to do is check on my phone that I'm live in the right place on Facebook. That will hopefully show me on here that I'm there. Fabulous. And then let me put in a little link. Good. This is done. Fabulous. So for those of you watching on Facebook, because I'm coming in through some streaming software called Be Live, Facebook doesn't allow Be Live to immediately show me who you are. So I just get comments that say Facebook user. So if you're watching me on Facebook, I've just posted in a link. If you could click on that link, that will allow Facebook to actually show me your name, and I can talk to you instead of just thinking you're a random Facebook user. For LinkedIn, the comments don't come through to my streaming software. So I am on the left-hand side on the iPad. Fab, I can see me there, and hopefully can keep track of any comments on there. The comments on LinkedIn are a little bit patchy. Sometimes it only shows me them afterwards, but I've got the comments there, so I'm hoping I will see them and keep track. And for YouTube, I've no idea what happens. I'll keep up with that bit afterwards. Anyway, enough of the palaver. Let's dive straight in. So today I'm going to talk to you all about value. It seems like a really straightforward concept, doesn't it? Value. What's the value of what you do? But actually, I know it's something that massively ties people in knots, and actually in a lot of different ways. So I see a lot of people confuse value with price. I see an awful lot of people that think because they struggle to get super clear on their value, or perhaps their value is not quite so tangible, that they can't actually charge a decent price for that. I also see lots of people who think value relates to how long something takes you or how complicated you find it. It only takes me 30 minutes. So I can't price very high because you don't perceive the value in that. Stella, I can see you. Good morning. So the first and most obvious question is, what is value? Now, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on that. So please feel free to drop into the comments what your opinion, view, perception of value really is. For me, value actually is not really anything to do with you. Value is all about the customer. I'm sure you will have heard that phrase, and we see it in lots of social media posts every so often, that price is what you pay, value is what you get. So if you think about that from a customer's perspective, price and value are two completely different things. The price is the pure amount of money that you pay for something. The value is what it is you receive. And again, this is where very often that I'll see people think, well, that means what people get from me is half an hour, a couple of hours of my time. What they get is this piece of work here. But that's not value. The thing that you deliver, the piece of work that you do for your customer, that's not the value. The value is what that means to your customer. What is the impact for your customer? What difference do you make for them? What does it actually mean to them? There's a fantastic book by a guy called Andy Bounds called The Jelly Effect. And some of you heard me talk about this a bazillion times in the past. Morning, Dave. So Andy Bounds and the jelly effect essentially talks about what is it that people are left with after they do business with you. That's the value. So let's take me as a simple example. Is the value that customers receive spending a certain amount of time with me? Is the value the coaching? Actually, the value isn't the coaching at all. The value isn't my time. The value is the impact of that time. The value is the results that actually leads to. So that's the value piece. It's very much having to separate in your own mind what you do, how long it takes you, how complicated it is, because none of those things are actually specifically relevant to the customer. Now, here's the kicker. What you might find is your customers may link value to price, or they may link value to how long things take you or how complicated it is, if that's the way you position it. So if you constantly talk about price or time or the specific details of what people get, then you're educating them that that's the value of what you do. So the key thing for you to think about is, if you want your customers to think about something other than price, if you want them to really appreciate the value that you deliver and not just focus on price, then you need to be able to articulate that value much more clearly. You need to steer that conversation away from price and money, and to be steering the conversation around impact, results, lasting change, transformation, all that kind of stuff. So you might well be thinking about, what is the change you create for your customer? Definitely think about impact. That's one of the most important things, is impact, change, difference. Now, I know that some people really struggle to quantify that. And yes, if you are doing something where it's in some way a numeric business, or if you're delivering quantifiable results, if you're a marketer or a specific lead generator, something like that, where you're able to say, we did this and we generated you 10 leads or generated you 6 new clients, then it's super easy to say, I generated that. There's a result. That's our value. Super simple. The vast majority of businesses actually can't quantify value quite as neatly as that. Perfect plan, Stella. Absolutely perfect plan. So the majority of businesses can't quantify value in that sort of numerical range. You are in a very luxurious position if you can, but quite a lot of businesses, service-based businesses, rarely can. Product-based businesses often can't. So that's where you need to get a little more kind of deep and probing with what you do. And Stella's just suggested something absolutely brilliant there. Go and read your own recommendations. It's your customers that will tell you what value means to them. And if you are someone that absolutely ties yourself in knots with this, your customers are the people that have the answer. And that might well be in throwaway comments. It might be in emails they send you. It should definitely be in things like LinkedIn recommendations or testimonials. If your clients or your network introduce you to other people, go and have a look at what they said in the introduction, even if that's in a Facebook message, in an email, in a LinkedIn message. Just have a look at the specific things that they say about you, because very often your clients will tell you what value is and you won't always recognize it. Now, one of the crucial things I see with people is the classic hiding your light under a bushel, as it were. Your clients tell you how amazing you are, and you kind of go all shy and British and just sort of bat it away. Oh, I can see a good morning comment on LinkedIn from Rita. Good morning, Rita. And you kind of bat it away, and you do that sort of humble British thing. But often what that means is you skim straight past the amazing feedback that your clients are giving you about the value that you deliver. So what other things can you think about? A great way to think about your value is to go back through your last few clients. Depends how meaty your clients are. So if your clients are really meaty, then perhaps think about your last 3. If your clients are a bit less meaty, think about your last 5 to 10 clients, and take an hour or two to just sit and think about, what was the difference for that client after they worked with me? And there's various different ways that you can think about that. Yes, okay, you can think about money. Is there an obvious financial impact to working with you? Many times there isn't. That does not mean they aren't getting value, and it does not mean that there isn't a phenomenal and significant value from what they do with you. So think about your last few clients and think about things like, what were their problems or challenges or issue? What was their situation when they first came to work with you? What were the difficulties that they were seeing? What were their kind of hassles? What was the reason that motivated them to come and work with you? And then contrast that with, what was that situation like after they worked with you? So what would they say differently about themselves or about their business? What could you or anybody else see that was different? And I don't necessarily mean, I mean, Dave's here as a graphic designer, so you might well physically see some differences in that case. But what you might also get is, what do their customers see? And I say see in that more general way, as in, what do their customers perceive to be different? What do their customers feel? What do their customers say? Now, obviously, you might not know the absolute nitty-gritty of that. You might not be quite close enough to that. But then you think about, if I was my customer's customer, what's different now about my experience with that business? You might even go so far as thinking about, what might friends and family say? Now, this might seem like you're off at a crazy tangent, and it does depend on the nature of the business that you're in. But let's think about Stella, who's here this morning. One of the key things that Stella helps people with is finding new jobs, or getting ready to look for the right jobs. So it may well be that a husband, wife, partner of somebody that Stella helps might actually say to them, after working with Stella, you really look like you've got your mojo back, or your mood has really lifted. I can see a real difference in you. Your customers, friends or family or customers, they might comment about, you seem far less stressed than you used to. So comments like that are wonderful, but it might also be that their customers say things like, your service is so much slicker, your branding looks amazing, you look really professional. So for people like Dave, if you hear feedback from a client that says, somebody told us today that our business looks really professional, that's a perfect piece of feedback that actually helps you quantify value, because you can then position yourself in the essence of, would you like your customers to perceive you as more professional? That's how I can help. And that's the value piece, rather than, would you like a new sign outside your office? Smashing. Which, to be fair, if the old one's absolutely tatty and ramshackle, is probably still a very good plan. So one of the big things, like I say, is really thinking back through your previous clients. What would they say? What can they feel? What looks different? And also, of course, think about the sort of headaches. What are the obvious changes that you make for them? So let's say you're a marketeer. Yes, okay, you might be helping generate leads, generate new customers. These things are wonderful. But what you might also be doing is taking away a huge amount of stress and headache and hassle. And you might be helping somebody to stop doing stuff that they absolutely hate. You might be giving people the confidence that now their marketing is, I'm coming back to that word, professional. You might be giving them the confidence and reassurance that their marketing is consistent. You may just be allowing them to work 8 or 10 hours a day instead of 15 hours a day, because they're trying to do it all themselves. You might be able to take away a headache of them being constantly swamped with work they don't enjoy and absolutely don't think they're very good at all. It might be that they feel like they're letting their business down because they're doing quite a bad job of their marketing, their branding on Canva, or whatever it is that you do for them, what you're able to take away from them, that creates space or time or luxury or reassurance. So really think about those things. What are the things that you're almost gifting back to your customer by taking away some of the pain and the headaches? Stella has, I do work that has an almost immediate impact. Confidence is usually the first impact. Oh, so that's a really interesting one actually, Stella, because there's some really juicy stuff there, because lots of people would say, come and work with me and it will improve your confidence, which is great. And that will be one of the key things your customers are coming to you for. But do they quite perceive that confidence as the value? Now, to really articulate your value, what you want to do is get under the skin of that and think, what does confidence truly mean to them? How would they describe it now, and how would they describe it later? And when you can dig under that and then really articulate that, that's when you can absolutely nail your value proposition. So that's a brilliant example, Stella. So confidence might mean, and I'm just doing this off the top of my head, so it might be a rubbish example, but in that instance, it might be that somebody thinks, I'm terrible in an interview. I always fluff my words. I can never remember what to say. And I always come out annoyed and disappointed. So that might be that actually what you're offering is to take them from a position of constantly being anxious about interviews and convinced they're going to do terribly, to feeling prepared and confident and actually looking forward to an interview. So confidence is the big thing you work with. But if you can dig underneath that and then really articulate the nitty-gritty about it, that's when you start to get really powerful information about your value and about the impact you create for people. So it's a brilliant example. Thank you for that one, Stella. Okay, let me check back on my super little guide. Impact is the really key thing. That's what value really is all about. It's not about what you deliver, it's absolutely about the value. And it's very much about tapping in to the really specific words, phrases and comments that your customers use, because so often we take things like that for granted. We bat them away, we go all humble. But actually your customers are giving you on a plate the definition of what your value is. So when they talk to you about what it means to them to work with you, when they talk to you about what's different for them, what they can see, what they can feel, what they can hear, what they can show, that's the juicy bit of value. Let me come back to Amanda's question as well, because Amanda had a wonderful little rant yesterday about this, which I thought was great because it gave me lots of juicy stuff to talk to you about today. So Amanda says, lots of people are selling the intangible. For example, make people happier or healed my past. And even if it is tangible, how do you sell realistic or sustainable results? We reduce things to numbers, but that doesn't tell the whole picture. For example, your classic lost 4 stone in 6 weeks. How was the method dodgy? Isn't everybody different? So marketing example, yes, I can get a business 100,000 followers in 3 months, but I need to know a lot more about the business before I can promise that. And even if it's possible, is it actually a good goal? Yes. So one of the things I think Amanda's touching on there is we see lots of promises online, don't we? The classic, you know, the 10K months, the 10,000 followers on Instagram, the 10,000 of this, that, or the other, the multi-7-figure business, the blah, 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 blah. And all these promises, much as we all know, most of them are absolute guff. We do also know that from a marketing perspective, they work because they hook into people's classic pain points. But what we also know is that for most of us, we don't like those kind of big promises and those sort of vague headline things, which actually we don't feel are a genuine reflection of what we do. Very often, they're not actually the things that customers come to you for in the first place anyway, or it's not what they really superly want. So value for me is not about feeling like you have to make massive promises. It's not about feeling like you must quantify and promise and guarantee specific results. It's very much about pulling that back and getting to understand exactly what it is that a customer wants. So if Amanda's talking about getting you 100,000 followers in 3 months, so what? What's the point of the 100,000 followers? Your headline marketers will do all of that. I can get you 10,000 new followers in the next 48 hours. So what? Yes, those things might kind of stand out and they're big promises, and you know everybody thinks it's going to solve every problem in the world if you have these 100,000 followers. But what if those 100,000 followers deliver absolutely nothing? To be fair, we know that they're all going to be spam and bots and things like that. So some people will be attracted to that kind of blurry headline marketing. But when you're talking about real value and really engaging clients so that you don't have to convince them about your price and you don't have to feel like you're trying to force them into buying from you, in that particular instance, the 100,000 followers is probably not very relevant. What is it they want those 100,000 followers for? What is the specific thing they're looking to do? Yes, lots of people might say, I want a bigger brand, I want a bigger audience. If I had a bigger audience, I would sell lots more. Hang on a minute. So it's not about the big audience, it's about the fact that you want to sell more. So then you need to get under the skin there and talk about, what do you want to sell? How do you want to sell it? How many of them do you want to sell? Why do you want to sell that many at that kind of price? And you really want to pull that back to, what are the business goals? Why are they the business goals? What will those goals actually mean? What will the goals enable? What will be the impact of those goals? So you can follow the pathway and essentially have a conversation with your customer. Keep following through that. Okay, this is the headline, but let me ask why that's important, and then why that's important, and then why that's important. There's a way that you can do this in we call it a which means that. So essentially you say, what my customer wants from me is 100,000 new followers, which means that they will have a much bigger audience, which means that they believe that they will be able to sell a lot more, which means that their income will be a lot higher, which means that perhaps it means that they could be able to expand their team. Perhaps it means that they would be able to pay off debts. Perhaps it means that they would be able to let their partner leave a terrible job. But it's getting to that point of, that's what impact really means to that particular customer. So which means that is a really simple, very irritating also, I would say, a very annoying way to try to really dig under the skin of, what is it that's really important to your customer? Because what's important is what value actually means to them. Just catching up with Stella's confidence. Yes, confidence is the start, not catching up with Stella's comments. Confidence is always the starting point. The work then starts. Some clients don't factor all that work before the actual work begins, 100%. I'm transparent with my pricing and the value I bring to the client. I never guarantee a job, but I guarantee that they will have a CV that is fit for purpose. Yes, absolutely. I would see, and you may well already do this, Stella, I'd be tempted to see whether you can take that one step further. So just think about that. What's the impact of having a CV that's fit for purpose? How does that make them feel? What opportunities does that present to them? What does that mean in terms of their likelihood of securing a job? Again, without going into crazy promises about your CV will definitely guarantee you a job in the next 5 minutes, but it's taking that. So in fact, let's go back with my little example. You're scooting off my page. They will have a CV that is fit for purpose, which means that they're more likely to get interviews, which means that they feel more confident about it, which means that, which means that, which means that. So that annoying little exercise there can really help you dig under the skin of that and start to get into the heart of, this is my impact. This is my impact, and therefore this is my value. Oh, somebody's disappearing. They've said, thank you, great advice. Sorry, I need to drop off now because I have another meeting. But they're a Facebook user, so I don't know who they are. Thank you for coming anyway. Yes, Stella, love the which means that principle. It's annoyingly simple, but it really, really works. I'm just coming back to Amanda's wonderful rant from yesterday. How do I show my value in a noisy world full of misunderstanding or measuring the wrong things? What a great question. And I would say the simple answer to that is to be specific, but not specific with the same promises that everybody else is making. I'm gonna loop myself back and say, go back to what I talked about earlier. Think about your last few clients. What are the really specific things that they say? Go back to your recommendations, testimonials, comments, and flyaway things like that, and see those specifics. Oh, bye, Sam. And see those specifics about what people actually say about you. Because if you think about yourself and what attracts you, we know people are naturally attracted to big, exciting promises, that it is just an easy, lazy style of marketing, but annoyingly effective. But if you think about yourself and think about what kind of marketing attracts you, what kind of thing makes you buy, and more often than not, it's when somebody says, I read something or other and I thought you were talking to me. I thought you had written that post. I thought you'd filmed that video just for me. You know, when somebody sends you that, when you've posted something and you get a comment back that says, did you write this just for me? And then you go, I've definitely done well with that one. But that's where you're getting to the heart of value. When you hear people say, I thought you wrote that for me, that's where you're really getting to the heart of value. So the interesting thing is, it's not headline stuff. It's not exciting, blaring, loud stuff. It's actually the quiet stuff. It's the quiet stuff that shows that you truly understand your customer, that you have a really deep understanding of what their challenges, issues, or I'm going to say pain points are. But you know, you understand what just what their headaches are, what are the niggles, the frustrations, what's keeping them awake at night. I'm coming out with all the cheesy phrases now, aren't I? But what are all those things that even get them to the point of considering needing to come and buy from somebody like you? And the deeper under the skin that you can get, the closer you can get to the heart of the problem. And sometimes you might even need to tell them the problem that they don't know exists. So if we come back to Stella's example, she's talking about making sure they've got a CV which is fit for purpose. It might be that with a little bit of digging, there'd be something about their existing CV which creates a feeling or an issue that they hadn't even thought about. Now, one of the things I know that Stella does, good that Stella's on today because I know quite a lot about what she does. One of the things I know Stella does is give people tips about how to make sure that a CV goes through, and I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's the sort of scanning software. So there's software that a lot of companies use that instantly kind of scans a CV, says it's compatible, extracts the juicy info. So if a CV doesn't hit those parameters, it will just get ditched straight away. So it may well be that there are issues with their CV that person doesn't even know about. And so by getting under the skin, you can actually highlight problems to people they don't even know exists. Now that sounds kind of mean in a way, doesn't it? They think they're doing well, and now you've shown them they've got even more problems. But what you actually do is you're showing them where they have issues, and they might not even realize they have an issue, which says, wow, look how much value this person can add to my business. She understands me better than I understand myself. She understands this issue better than I understand this issue. Now, one other crucial thing that I would say when it comes to understanding your value, and one area that I see so many people massively underestimate, is what it has taken for you to get to the point that you are at now, for you to be as competent and as skilled and as able and as experienced as you are right now. All of those years of training, of education, of study, of working with clients, of improving yourself, of going on courses, of the experience of the ups and downs of dealing with customers and building your business. All those months and years are all part of your value. And what I often see is people taking this in completely the opposite direction, and they'll do that classic, that only takes me 30 minutes, so I can't charge more than such and such. But the reason it takes you 30 minutes is because you've taken years to develop this level of knowledge and expertise that you have. So your expertise and your depth of knowledge should be a massive factor in the value. That's a huge part of the value, and that should definitely be reflected in your price. Now, I am slightly blurring value and price here, but I'm blurring it in the sense that people underprice because they also massively undervalue themselves and their own level of experience. So every time you do something that improves your own knowledge, you are also increasing the value you offer to customers, and that should be reflected in your price. So your price is a direct reflection of the value you deliver. It's not a direct reflection of how long something takes you to deliver right now or how simple you find it, because the fact you find it simple just means you're absolutely ace and that's why you're such high value to your customers. So I am, as always, out of time in a flash. I'm sure that was only about 5 minutes. Big thank you to Stella today for lots of your comments. They've been really helpful, Stella. Thank you for that. I can see there's a few people who are watching on LinkedIn. I can only see one comment, so I will go straight back now. And if there are other comments there, I will come and respond to you. If anybody watches this later on any of the various channels, please do feel free to keep dropping in comments or questions, and I'll happily come back and respond to those for you. What I will also do is I will drop into the comments a link to my free guide, which is basically a free guide, how to understand and explain your value. So it will take you through lots of the things we talked about today. It's kind of laid out in specific questions. So it kind of gives you a linear pathway to go, right, question 1, question 2, question 3, da-da, here's my incredible value by the time you get to the end of that guide. Yeah, I think that's everything from me today. So do have a little nosy at the free guide. It is totally and utterly free. It will, of course, guide you towards my Facebook group. So for anybody on LinkedIn who'd like to hear more of my juicy tips every day, come and check out the Business Growth Community on Facebook. And I will be back next Friday. I have a live interview next Friday with the wonderful Dr. Joe Baldwin. And we are going to be talking about all things overwhelm, which is a classic challenge for so many people in business. So Joe's going to be talking about fantastic strategies to manage yourself, manage your overwhelm, and feel so much calmer and more zen and under control in your business. So that is 10 o'clock next Friday. So hopefully we'll see you all back here then. Thank you all for watching. Have a fabulous end of your week and weekend, people. Goodbye.